Hello and welcome to this second lesson on the topic B9 where we're looking at respiration. In the previous lesson we looked at respiration and more specifically aerobic respiration. We spoke about why respiration is important and why cells need to carry out respiration. Before we start today's lesson, I'd like you to have a think about the starter on the board, and the question says, what ingredients do you need to make all of these? We've got a pint of lager, we've got a loaf of bread, and we've got a pizza. Pause the video now, have a think, and press play when you're ready to go over the answers. So you should have had a go at that question by now, you should have at least had a think about it. And yeast is needed to make all of these things. Yeast is used in baking bread, it's used in brewing, and it's also used in foods such as pizza, which I suppose comes under baking. Sugar's also needed, which is a source of energy for the yeast. The yeast carry out a form of respiration known as anaerobic respiration. So today's title, I would like you to put, please, anaerobic respiration. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to define anaerobic respiration. You should be able to explain the process of the two types of anaerobic respiration. And we'll just add types to that. And you should be able to compare and contrast the process of aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So last lesson, we defined this word respiration. Respiration. And we would have defined respiration something along the lines of a process used by all organisms to release energy from glucose. To release energy from glucose. One thing that's really important that you need to remember, and I'm just going to mention it again now because people make the same mistake year on year, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is moved from one form to another. So we can say energy is not created or destroyed but is transferred from one form to another. That's really important, and that's why I've put it in red pen, okay? Do not say that respiration makes energy. It doesn't. It releases energy from glucose. We also said last lesson that there was two types of respiration. So two types of respiration. We've got aerobic and anaerobic. Okay. We said last lesson that the word aerobic means with air. So the word aerobic literally means with air or with oxygen. And today we're going to look at anaerobic respiration. So anaerobic respiration, is defined as the release of energy from glucose without the use of oxygen. Without the use of oxygen. Okay? Now, anaerobic respiration is different in animals and plants. So we can put underneath here, is different in animals and plants. Okay, so we can divide the board up. We can draw ourselves a little table here. I don't know if we're going to fit it on, but we'll certainly give it a try. Like so. And in the first column, we can put anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration in animals. And in the other column, we can put anaerobic respiration in plants. Now, anaerobic respiration in animals, the equation is really, really easy. We've got glucose, which is our reactant, being converted into the products lactic acid. Okay, so glucose is simply converted into our products lactic acid. Okay, so this is our product. So in anaerobic respiration in animals, there is one reactant and one product. So we can say anaerobic respiration in animals involves one reactant and one product. Okay. On the other hand, in plants, we've only got one reactant in the form of glucose. So this is our reactant. But anaerobic respiration in plants involves two products. Okay? The two products we produce are a molecule known as ethanol, and the gas carbon dioxide. So in plants, the word equation for anaerobic respiration is glucose is broken down into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Ethanol and carbon dioxide are the products. Okay. Now, ethanol can be used to make alcoholic drinks. So ethanol is used to make alcoholic drinks. Used to make alcoholic drinks. Carbon dioxide, on the other hand, is used to raise bread in baking. So we can say that carbon dioxide, and I forgot the E off the end of there, apologies, again, I'm not the best with literacy, as my students definitely know. Carbon dioxide is used in baking. So used in baking to make bread rise. Makes bread rise. Okay. In plants, we call anaerobic respiration fermentation. So fermentation, which is our last keyword. I have tried to keep it all on one screen today for you. So fermentation. Fermentation is anaerobic respiration so that should say anaerobic respiration, which in plants it also takes place in yeast. That's something I forgot to add earlier. So anaerobic respiration in plants / yeast that produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. So, respiration is a process used by all organisms to release energy from glucose. Energy is not created or destroyed, but it's simply transferred from one form to another. In the case of this, it's transferred from a chemical store into a heat store and a kinetic store if an organism is using it to move. There's two types of respiration. There's aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration we covered last lesson. If you can't remember anything about that, go back and watch the previous video, but it is essentially respiration with oxygen. And anaerobic respiration is the release of energy from glucose without the use of oxygen. It's different in animals and plants. In animals, we have one reactant, glucose, producing one product, lactic acid. This lactic acid becomes very problematic and your body has to get rid of it. We'll talk about that more next lesson. Anaerobic respiration in animals involves one reactant and one product. In plants, we have glucose, which is the one reactant, being broken down into ethanol and carbon dioxide. The ethanol can be used to make alcoholic drinks, it can be used in brewing, whereas the carbon dioxide can be used in baking to make bread rise. Fermentation is the name of this process, and it's anaerobic respiration in plants and yeast. So one thing that I need to add up here, I did say yeast, not yeet. So yeast, like that. Okay, so plants and yeast carry out fermentation, which is where a reactant is broken down into two products, ethanol and carbon dioxide. Ethanol is used to make alcoholic drinks, whereas carbon dioxide is used in baking to make bread rise. So you should now be able to define anaerobic respiration. You should be able to explain the process of two types of anaerobic respiration. You can certainly say the word equations. Glucose is broken down into lactic acid in animals. In plants, glucose is broken down into ethanol and carbon dioxide. And you should be able to compare the processes of aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So one is with air, one is without. Aerobic respiration has two reactants and two products, whereas anaerobic respiration only has one reactant. You should be able to say that fermentation has two products, whereas in animals it only has one product. So if we have a look back at our starter, what ingredients do you need to make all of these? You need yeast, which carry out anaerobic respiration to make ethanol for alcoholic beverages and make bread rise in baking. I hope this lesson has been useful to you. Should you have any questions, either comment below in Google Classrooms or send me an email directly and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Until the next lesson, take care.